Hi, everyone. It's Tuesday and it's 3 o'clock. That means it's Tech Tuesday. And today I am continuing our series on best practices for broadband call centers. Be right back. Hey there. Thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here at Zquorum. And my guest again this week is Jason Young, our Vice President of Call Center Services. How are you, Jason?
Hey, how are you?
Have a good New Year's?
I did. I did.
Yeah,
Did you?
I did. Very quiet as usual for us as we get older. I think it's gotten quieter every year, but yeah, had a good New Year's, nice and safe. And so yeah, doing well. So yeah.
Um,
So again, we are continuing on a series on best practices for broadband call centers. So we've talked about. I'll go ahead and link at the end of this on the comments, some links to the previous sessions. But we talked about hiring. We talked about training. This week, when we were talking about managing the call center staff itself, we talked about the building in the very first one. I think how you find the right facility. So let's jump right into that. So we've hired people, we've trained them, and now we kind of got to shift to the process of managing our staff. So maybe start with what you do or what you recommend as far as maybe a ratio of call center reps to supervisors.
well, obviously, the lower the number there, the better. I would suggest that about the 8 to 1 range is the best practice that you could do.
Mhm.
You probably get away with up to 12 to 1. But what you don't want is for reps to feel like they're on an island with nobody there to help them.
Mhm.
And when you get in the call center world, no matter how seasoned your reps are, there's always going to be questions that they don't know the answer to, and that they need their supervisor. They need to be able to escalate it. They need another opinion, and leaving them, where they're raising their hand, they're trying to get the supervisor's attention, they're calling them on their extension or what have you, and there's nobody there to help them is the worst thing can happen. So in our center, we're a little under 7 to 1. We're about 6.8 to 1 right now. And I try to keep that in the, 8 or below, 6 to 8 range for us. Because I like the staff to make sure we have plenty of help available.
So it's not then just about having supervisors there to make sure people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. It sounds like a lot of it is really supporting the call center reps and making sure that they're as effective as possible. Is that right?
Yeah, that's part, and you're always going to get the customers that are using profanity and all of those types of things where you have to be able to have a supervisor to take it, so it's an escalation point for the customer.
Mhm.
Typically, what we use our QA department for is to make sure reps are doing things correctly, troubleshooting correctly, providing the right customer service, all of those things, and then their reports come back to the supervisors and trainers. So the supervisor is really in the weeds. I mean, they're more the day to day stuff. They are there call to call, and they want to make sure that they do things like scheduling lunch to make sure that we're effective. You don't want you know half your staff going to lunch at noon, for example. You want to be
Mhm.
able to stagger that so that people are relieving each other for lunch, and that you have the same number of reps throughout the day. And then make sure that when one returns from lunch, the person going next can then transfer their call directly, because you certainly don't want to have a customer that's been working on a problem for 20 minutes and now, oh, hold, somebody will call you back. That's not something that we would ever want to do. So the person coming back from lunch can just take that call directly and work from, pick up from the point that the other rep left off.
Mhm. And then what about the tracking side? So you've got your supervisor there to help in those situations, but also I guess you're wanting to track productivity and calls and those kinds of things. What do you
Yeah,
recommend there?
yeah. For me, what I think in the call center world, and I think a lot of people miss this. So I'm a little unorthodox when it comes to this, but I'm the strongest thing for me is first time resolution. I think that you manage hold time based on solving the person's problem the first time and eliminating repeat callers. So you don't want to go around and say, okay, it's time to get off the phone. You've been on that phone 8 minutes.
Mhm.
What you want to do is make sure that the agent is, in the end, is solving the problem. So we again use QA to do that. make sure that we're getting, for example, if QA sees a customer that called 4 times in one day, they're going to go review all those cases and listen to those recordings and make sure that, in the end that we are troubleshooting it correctly the first time. And then it might be an opportunity to train, agents that handle that customer.
And you do hear other companies kind of focusing on that. In fact, I've been on the receiving end of that where you call the call center and you're trying to get a resolution and you can tell they've given you a few things to try and they want to get you off the phone. It's almost like that's how they're being graded. Is that the case, you think?
Yeah. A lot of call centers that'll go through and they'll say, for example, they'll say, how many calls did you take today? Can you take 40 calls? Can you take 50? Well, if you're taking 50 calls and 35 of them call back, it's not a good ratio, no matter how we look at it, right? So my concept is that we're going to solve them the first time. And, I went and had a chance to kind of talk with one of our local call centers that are nearby. That it's larger than ours, a pretty big insurance company. And the guy that runs that call center just wanted my input on some data. So I looked at it and long story short, their repeat caller rate was 72%. And I told him, this was 6 or 8 months ago, I said, you got to get that number down below 20% or you don't have a chance to fight the whole time, right? So that's what he's been focusing on, and my theory has worked. And he says his hold time has dropped by about 45 seconds on average, just by reducing the 72 down to about a 40% number. So you just eliminate calls. You don't want volume drives up hold time, and volume, if it's dictated by how many people call back, you want to minimize that. So that's always been my plan, and it makes the customer happier. I mean, I don't see a lose situation there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In fact, as they say, you get what you measure. So if you're measuring the number of calls, you're going to have a lot of calls, but you're not necessarily going to have success there. It's the same thing with sales. If you're trying to measure your sales on how many calls people are making and not on how much they're selling, that's not a good thing to do either. So what
my top agent last month, just to give you an idea, my top agent had 18 calls on average per day. So the grade that I look at more than calls, just give you one more little bit of data, is I look at what percentage of the day the agent is on the phone. So it doesn't necessarily say, how many did they take, but rather how long did they stay with every customer, and then how long were they not doing anything. So I say, if you're on the phone, you're working, right? I mean, that's the key for us. So she had 18, and then we had a person that averaged about 40 that finished near the bottom. So we really do not stress volume at all.
Yeah. And I guess that kind of brings me to, measuring that success. So obviously you're measuring for how long somebody's on the phone, but what other kind of measurements are there as far as call resolution, maybe customer satisfaction? What do you guys look at?
Yeah, we look at customer satisfaction. We look at first time resolution. So, how many times did their customer call back needing additional help? That's a big ding for us. We have surveys that we have surveyed the customers with that we want customer satisfaction. We do QA where we, have basically how you're supposed to greet. If you put them on hold, what you should say, your knowledge level, all of the things that you would think in a QA score. And we have people grade their calls, so they get, from 0 to 100. And everywhere in between. So we'll grade 6 or 8 a month per tech. And, we also review tickets and how they take notes and how accurate they are to what really happened on the call. And, some of the thing also gets down to straight knowledge level. I mean, did they have to escalate a call because it was a Netflix buffering issue that they're not real sure about? And, or, are they able to handle 95% of their calls without escalating? That's another big deal, because if you're having to escalate calls, now you're using 2 resources to handle 1 customer. And what we want to do is rather than stress how many can you take, again, how many can you fix? And then if you don't understand the call, how can we train you to get you smarter? So that's where our
Right.
focus goes.
Yeah, I was going to say that kind of gets back to your training. So,
Yeah.
what about, are there any kind of incentives that you provide to people that are doing a good job, or that you're tracking and they're performing the
Yeah,
way that you'd like?
we've done. I mean, obviously, you take regular tech evaluations. We do it every 6 months, and we have a formal sit down on what they do well, what they don't. We monthly we cover what we call our statistics with
Mhm.
them. How many are they averaging? What percent of their day do they spend on the phone? What were their QA scores? What were the ticket review scores? All of those types of things, and then we reward those people that finish high in that. It might be that they get a gift card, $100 gift card to Visa or whatever, Visa gift card, or I might take them to lunch with a group of them that achieve a certain score. We also set goals for the center in general. So we get a pizza party if we achieve less than 45-second hold time, as an example, or what have you. We've done countless things, and the idea is to kind of keep it fresh, reward the thing that we're focusing on. And what
Mhm.
I do is I just kind of take what have we been really weak on the last 90 days. Now let me reward us to get better in that area.
Mhm.
Because there are, many areas that you need to be good at to be efficient. So that's what I tend to do. I tend to kind of make my focus and give awards away for things that we've done poorly over the last 90 days.
Yeah. I guess, is opportunities for advancement one way that you can reward your absolute best performers, or is that maybe not a good thing to do? Sometimes you don't want to promote your best people into
Well,
management, or at least supervisor
well,
roles.
that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a career path is what I like to call it.
Hmm.
We have that based on knowledge level. So you might have an opportunity where you could go in the commercial support route and into our troubleshooting engineering. If you're a technical person, if you're customer service oriented and you do well, you might want to go into management. But in between all of those levels, you'll have different cues that are based on skill based. That will, if you allow people to, if you're a new hire, you're going to be in these 4 cues. Well, I have 12 total cues. So what do we do on the other 8? We have to reward the people that get smarter on those subjects and then move them over to that queue.
Hmm.
So you can do it based on, we do it based on knowledge, based on performance. How good are they at customer service?
Hmm.
And then we give them opportunities. The way I do it is I have what I call a manager in training position, and I basically give them a 90-day probationary period in that role. And then if I see that it fits, it fits. But if it doesn't, we can still move them back into maybe one of the smarter cues or the highest level cue. And there's no hard feelings, right? You don't want people to ever feel like they're being demoted,
Right.
because in the end that doesn't work real well.
Yeah.
So we do it kind of like a probationary period, and then make sure we're not going to have to fire them if they don't perform well just as a manager. Because I think you said it. Sometimes people who are good task completers, that doesn't make them leaders necessarily.
Yes.
And you have to be a good leader to manage the floor.
Hmm. Yeah. So, what else? It can be kind of monotonous, I'm sure, just picking up the phone, one call after another, and kind of dealing with the same things. And it's usually somebody who's not happy for one reason or another because their internet's not working or something like that, or they can't figure something out.
That's
So,
right.
is there anything else that you do to kind of keep things interesting and fun, either throughout the day or at various times?
Yeah, at various times we do, multiple things. We'll have, you've heard of the secret shopper. I'm sure everybody's
Hmm.
heard of that. Well,
Hmm.
we do the secret caller.
Oh, okay.
You don't know if somebody calls in and it might be me calling, right?
Yeah.
So if they do it, reward them, whatever, various rewards. I had a program this past month, and we changed this up. But last month we had the concept of, I don't know how many people played the game cornhole, where you throw bean bags at
Hmm.
a little board that has a hole in it.
Yep.
But essentially, I had certain things that the techs could do, perfect attendance, those types of things, where they could earn bags, and then the bags they got to throw could win prizes if they got it on the board or in the hole, right?
Uh-huh.
So the prizes could go everything from a a paid day off, to lunch with me, to movie day at the office, to various things.
Mm-hmm.
And they could either save their points or spend them all the first month and do it again, right?
Yeah.
And keep adding to it. So we try to keep it that way, where it's not just what you said. Every call these agents that I have take is a problem. People aren't calling because their internet's wonderful.
Yeah.
So they call, and if they're dealing with on average, 25 or so unhappy customers a day, they need a break from that if they do it well.
Yeah. Good point. So I guess one last question that I can think of. So obviously, things kind of changed with COVID and the pandemic, and a lot of people started working remote, and so now a lot of call centers, even prior to this, I know a lot of call centers were having remote workers, people at home doing that. So any recommendations as far as, I know that's more challenging, so any recommendations as far as managing remote workers and what are best practices there?
Yeah, well, once the pandemic happened, a lot of these PBX manufacturers went to cloud-based stuff. And I think I talked about that in our first session that we had when you were starting up a call center, making sure, which one did you want to go with? Well, most of the cloud-based technology allows remote workers just to log into a phone at home, right? So you can just plug in, and as long as you've got enough bandwidth to support the calls, you're okay. You're okay there. But you got to look for a service that allows them to, how are you going to account for their time, for example, logging in, logging out, those types of things. So my advice, if you're going to manage remote workers, is to get some type of software, and there's many of them out there that allow for time clock management built in it.
Mm-hmm.
You also want to make sure that your QA department is large enough to handle that, because let's face it, there are some people that are going to be efficient on their own, and there's some people that need management. So you want to make sure that the people are providing a quality service at home, and you also want QA to be able to listen to some of those calls, because there might be a kid in the background or a dog barking or things that customers are just not going to like. So you have to be really strict on that and make sure that your remote workers have a defined space in their home where this is their office. They can close up and be quiet, and then make sure that they're efficient when doing it.
Yeah, that's another thing that I've experienced is you'll be on the phone with somebody and, you'll hear the dog in the background or a baby crying or something like that, or sometimes a TV. Right. Yeah. So you have to be careful with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, Jason, I appreciate your joining us obviously today. So thanks again. And we're going to continue this next week. But in the meantime, so, part of the reason that we're doing this is if you are an internet service provider and maybe you're looking at how you can expand your call center or how you can improve your call center, we're trying to provide some good information there. Or if you're a new internet service provider, somebody that's getting the business, how are you going to suddenly handle internet calls? And that will tend to be people like municipalities, maybe your utilities, electric co-ops that are providing support for water services or, power, a lot of billing kinds of things, but not necessarily broadband. So this will help for that. But also, if you need assistance, we've been providing outsourced call center services since 1995, back when it was all dial-up internet, and we've moved through the evolution of DSL and cable modem and fiber and all of that and fixed wireless as we support all of those technologies in our call center. So we can help you if you're an internet service provider, either existing or getting into the business. We can do anything from 24/7 full-time support for you to just handling, if you need just some assistance on maybe after hours support, weekend support, overflow support, we can help in all of those areas as well. So Jason, I appreciate it. And we will be back next week. I'm trying to remember what the topic was going to be. I can't recall. So you'll have to be surprised. Everybody's surprised. I'll let you know, Jason, in advance, just so you can be prepared for that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. So thanks, everybody. Yeah, we'll be back for Tech Tuesday next Tuesday at 3:00 Eastern Time. I hope to see you then. I will be back tomorrow with broadband deployment news at some point during the day. So if you're not subscribed, click the little subscribe button there and click the thumbs up. Click the little bell on when you subscribe, and you'll be notified when I'm live. Click the like button or the thumbs up if you like this video. And if you do need help, you see there on the screen, you've got our email address and our phone number. So just reach out to us if you need some help for outsourced call center support. We'd love to talk to you. So thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks, Jason. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.